क्या बोल रहे हो? हाँ, वो उमेश को बोल दो ना, मेरी अभी 2 घंटे क्लास है। वो दे देगा, मैंने उसको बोल दिया था। Hi, good evening, everyone. Screen is visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Am I audible and visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's start then. So, good evening, everyone. So, I am Himanshu, PhD scholar from IIT Bombay. So, today I am taking your second tutorial class from the course Basics of Biology. Um, so, this question will help you like in your future exam for this course. So, let's start with the question one. Which theory is similar to that stating God is the creator of earth and organisms? And the option A for this question is theory of eternity of life. Option B is theory of catastrophism. Option C is theory of cosmozoic. And option D is modern theory. So, what do you think? What will be the answer for this question? You can unmute yourself and tell your answer. Anyone who wants to answer for this question?
Option A.
Okay, one of you are saying option A. Anyone else?
Option B, ma'am.
Okay, one of you are saying option B, and one of you are saying option A. Anyone else? Uh, guys, try to answer the question. Even if you are wrong, it's okay. Okay, let's see what will be the answer for this question. So option B is the correct answer. Theory of catastrophism. So what is this theory of catastrophism? That it was given by this Cuvier, and according to the theory of catastrophism, that there is a sudden change, like earthquake, and like species will die, and then again life will come. And the group of scientists who give the theory of catastrophism, they believe that the god or some supernatural power that will give rise to the earth like organisms, and life then evolved again and again. And for this theory they gave the proof for paleontology, because when we study the paleontology we can see that there is an era in which a large number of organisms die, and then in the again the organism arise. So they believe that the organism arise because of the some natural power force, some supernatural power force, and that they named it as god. They believe that it was god, that who is the creator of this earth and organism. So option B is the correct answer. Okay, so let's see what is this theory of eternity of life. So theory of eternity of life suggests that uh, wait a second, sorry. So let's see what are the other theories. First is the theory of eternity of life. This theory of eternity of life, it suggests that life has always existed, eternity that always existed and has neither a beginning nor an end. But this theory deny the idea of a specific creation event. Instead, it supports that life is eternal and it is continuously evolving or changing. This theory didn't give the don't believe on the idea of that the god has god is behind this, the origination of the life. So this belief that life already existed and it has neither a beginning or nor an ending. So this is the eternity of life. And the second theory is theory of catastrophism, that I already told you that this is proposed by the George Cuvier, and this suggests that the life on earth has been shaped by sudden and short-lived, and there will come the violent events such as flood, earthquake, or volcanic eruption. And after each catastrophe, new species were created to replace those that went extinct. So after each in the paleontology study we can see that some whole species will die, and then again in the new era new species will arise, and they believe that it's because of the god that have a power to give rise to the life to other species, or like other species or other organism. So, this theory of catastrophism aligns with the religious beliefs as it allows for the divine intervention after each catastrophe. So, it believed that the god or some supernatural force created the life. So, this is the theory who believe that the God is there who created the life. And the third one is the theory of cosmozoic, and what it we also call this theory is the panspermia theory. Panspermia theory, that this theory cosmos means like space. So this theory suggests that the life originated from the outer space. They believe that this is the earth, and in the space elsewhere, like already life is there, and here through the space some spores will come. And how these spores come on the earth, like via meteoroids or comets and all. So they come to this earth surface and or microorganism, and then they started the life. So this theory of cosmozoic believe that the life originated from the space and in the form of spores or microorganism that travel to the earth via meteoroids or comets. So it support an extraterrestrial origin of life. So this theory would not believe that it's a terrestrial origin of life. They believe that extraterrestrial, that is somewhere else, or somewhere else from where, that is from the space, and from the space this life originated. And the last theory is modern theory, and we also call it as biochemical origin of life, and which is also like experimentally proved by the Operin and Haldane. This Operin scientist and JBC Haldane, these two scientists, they believe that the life origination is from the biochemical, that is, they believe that the life originate from the non-living molecules and through a series of chemical reaction in the early earth condition. They believe that in the early earth condition there are some reactions, and something will be there that in the reducing environment of earth, because earlier the earth atmosphere is reducing because there will be no oxygen. So there is a very high chances of the reactions, chemical reactions, and molecules will combine, and they form a like life. Like first initially through this Operin Holden experiment also, they found in the during the experiment when they give the early uh, earth conditions, that is methane, ammonia and hydrogen and water vapor, and also that time very high energy is there, and that is through the volcanic eruption. So here also they apply through the electric discharge, and what they found is that amino acids will come. So from there they believe that this life is originated from the non-living molecules. Okay, so the second question is, the primitive earth when cooled down below the 1000 degrees Celsius first led to the formation of, option A is biosphere, option B is ecosphere, and option C is magnetosphere, and option D is hydrosphere. So what do you think? When it cools down the 1000 degrees Celsius first led to the formation of what? Anyone wants to answer for this question?
Ma'am, option B.
Option B. Okay. Anyone else?
Option
Option? Pardon
B.
me. B. D. Okay. Option.
B.
Okay, okay. Option D. Anyone else? Okay, let's see the answer for this question. So option D is the correct answer. That is hydrosphere. So for the primitive Earth, when cooled down below the 1000 degrees Celsius, when it cools down, because we know that earlier the temperature of the Earth is very high, and when it is cooled down to the 1000 degrees Celsius, first it leads to the hydrosphere, because there will be condensation and all the vapors will convert into the water, and there will be the formation of this hydrosphere, right? So the first, after the condensation of this water vapors and all, these will cool down through the condensation reaction and it will form the hydrosphere, right? So the right answer for this question is the hydrosphere. So the answer for this question is hydrosphere. And what other options are? Biosphere. So what is this biosphere is? And this biosphere, it is made up of like ecosphere, lithosphere, and hydrosphere, right? And it is formed much later when the life emerged. It formed after the like life formation. And the next one is ecosphere, and ecosphere refers to the part of Earth that support life and which develop only after the biosphere formed, because in the ecosphere there will be the like living organism also there, and there will be interaction is there that will form the ecosphere, right? And this will only happen once the life will be there, and after that, like after the formation of biosphere, it will come undergo, right, ecosphere. And then the third one is the magnetospheres. Earth's magnetic field existed early on, but it is created by the movement of molten iron in the core, not by the cooling alone, right? So hydrosphere is the right answer for this question. Wait a second. So the next question is, here, like here through the diagram also we can see that this is the like two parts of this earth interior and earth exterior. So the interior of the earth is made up of this mantle, which is approximately 2900 kilometer thick, and they have a two sub layer, one is outer and inner. So this outer layer we called it as this baros. It will form the barosphere, and it is made up of this two cores, that is outer and inner. And this outer core, it is made up of liquid part, and inner is made up of solid. And the earth exterior, here it is divided into hydrosphere, atmosphere, and magnetosphere, right? And hydrosphere form the 70% of earth's surface, and atmosphere it further divided into the four types, that is troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, and ionosphere. And magnetospheres, this is the part of the earth where the area of charged particles is present, and it is present above the atmosphere, and it is influenced by the earth magnetic fields. So here we can see that this is the with like what is the biosphere? It is made up of this atmosphere, lithosphere, and hydrosphere. Like once this hydrosphere will form, like in the early earth condition, when there will be condensation, this water droplets will form and it will form the ocean, and it will form this hydrosphere part. And once this hydrosphere forms, and this lithosphere and atmosphere, these three combine, and then there will be formation of this biosphere. And when the living organism origination is there, then this biosphere and this ecosystem will combine and it will form the ecosphere. And last one is the magnetosphere, and magnetosphere is the magnetic field presence. It's will not help, like it will not form only with the cooling alone. So the right answer for this question is the hydrosphere, right? So the next question is the part of earth with large quantity of iron and nickel is. Option A is lithosphere, option B is pyrosphere, option C is inner core of barosphere, and option D is outer core of barosphere. So, what will be the answer for this question?
It's C, I think, ma'am. Inner core of biosphere.
Okay. One of you are saying
C.
options. C, D. Can you please repeat option?
C, ma'am. C.
Okay, okay. Option C.
It is C.
Okay, okay. Anyone else?
Ma'am, option C, inner core of biosphere.
Okay. Option B.
Ma'am, option C,
D.
C,
C.
inner core of biosphere.
Okay, okay, okay. Option C. Okay. Two of you are saying option C. Anyone else?
Option C.
Okay. So three of you are saying option C.
Option C, ma'am.
Okay. Anyone else? So many of you are saying option C. Okay, let's see. You people are right. That is, inner core of Berisphere is the right answer for this question. So, in the earlier slide, also I mentioned that the interior part of the Earth, which is made up of this, um, like inner core, which is we called as the outer core, and inner core, which is mostly present in the form of liquid. In this inner core of barysphere, there will be presence of large quantity of iron and nickel. So this barysphere refers to the interior part of Earth and mainly the core. And this inner core is primarily composed of the iron and nickel in a solid state due to the extreme pressure. But the outer core contains iron nickel, but it's in the liquid state, right? So mostly um, yeah, this is the inner core and this is the outer core. Here in the liquid phase, it is most evidently it is present in the inner core of barysphere, where this contains the iron and nickel, but in the liquid form, where inner core is very solid. So the right answer for this is the inner core of barysphere, where the large quantity of iron and nickel is present. And here from here we can extract this iron and nickel. And this pyrosphere is the older term sometime used for this mantle part, which contains the molten rock. So here only this molten rock is present, there will be no this iron nickel metal is there. And it is this metal part mainly consists of the silicates. Here we can see that, and this one is the upper part, we called it as the crust. um, and this crust, this normally consists of the like silicate rocks and granites. And then second one is the mantle part, which is composed of the silicates, and the third composed of the core. And here it is divided into the two parts, that the outer core and inner core. Outer core, it is normally present in the solid form, and inner core is mostly in the liquid form. And in this iron and nickel, like most evidently it is present in the inner core of barysphere, right? So the next question is the reason for the presence of hydrogen and hydrogen compounds with water to remain within the atmosphere of primitive earth is: option A is gravitational force, option B is reducing environment, option C is oxidizing environment, and option D is nuclear force.
Option A, ma'am.
Okay, option A. Anyone else? Anyone else who wants to answer for this question? Anyone else who wants to answer this first question? So one of you are saying is option A, gravitational force. But you people think option A is the right answer. The reason for the presence of hydrogen.
Option
Option?
A.
Okay. Okay, let's see. Option A is the
A.
right. Option A is the right answer for this question because this gravitational force, the reason for the presence of hydrogen in hydrogen compound with water to remain within the atmosphere. Gravitational force is force due to the gravity. So Earth have a like one special kind of force which is recognized by the Newton, that there is a force and we called it as this gravity. So this gravitational force which in during the primitive earth it gives a very strong gravitational pull. So because of the presence of this gravitational pull, but this gravitational pull will do this help we know that this hydrogen H2, like first element in the periodic table. So this is a very like very lightweight gas, hydrogen and hydrogen compounds also. So because of the presence of this strong gravitational pull, it keeps those gases and those compounds inside the primitive Earth atmosphere. Even though hydrogen is very light gas, so Earth gravity prevented it from escaping into the space so that it can remain in the atmosphere. So this is forming, yeah, some people can say that because of the reducing environment also this hydrogen and hydrogen compounds are forming. But even if they are formed, they can escape into the space, right? But their presence, like their presence in the primitive earth is because of the presence of this force, right? This gravitational pull is there. Because of that they stayed there, like inside the earth, and or they will not escape into the space, right? If this gravitational pull will not be there, that time these gases can escape into the space. So that's why the right answer for this question is the gravitational force, like which is the reason for the presence of this hydrogen and hydrogen related compound with the water to remain within the atmosphere of this primitive earth. So this gravitational retention also along with the reducing environment played a role in the formation of early atmospheric and chemical conditions. But it can escape into the space. So the main role to stayed in the earth only, it's because of this gravitational force, right? So the next question is, to disprove the theory of spontaneous generation, Louis Pasteur, with the experiment involving an S-shaped tube, had given the following. Option A is appearance of microorganisms in the neck of the tube with condensed water. Option B is disappearance of microorganisms in the neck of the tube with condensed water. Option C is appearance of microorganism inside the flask with condensed water in S-shaped tube. And option D is no growth in the flask after breaking S tube. So what experiment Louis Pasteur did, and this is a statement. So what will be the answer for this question?
Ma'am, maybe option C, appearance of microorganism inside the flask with condensed water in S-shaped tube.
Okay, option C. Okay. Anyone else?
Option C.
Okay. So two of you are saying option C.
Option C.
Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else who wants to answer for this question? Okay, let's see. Uh, Option A is the right answer. That appearance of microorganism in the neck of the tube with the condensed water. So, there is a theory of the spontaneous generation. First, we have to know like what is this spontaneous generation. This spontaneous generation theory suggests that the organism arise like all of sudden from the non-living organism, right? So, this spontaneous generation group of scientists they believe that the life origination is from the non-living organism, right? So, after this theory, one scientist come and he proved this theory wrong through a very simple experiment, which we called it as Swan flask experiment also, and his name is this Louis Pasteur. So what he did is he take this Swan flask, conical flask. First, he take this prebiotic soup, and here also this is the sterile, like even if there is an microorganism is present, he boiled it so that it will create a sterile environment. So he found there is a no growth, and then what he did is he break the neck so that already existing microorganism will come and it will originate. So then through this simple experiment he proved that if there is pre-existing life is there, then only it will give rise to the life, that the life origination is from the pre-existing life, right? There will be no life from the non-living organism all of sudden, right? For that already, if there is a life, then only it will give rise to the offspring, right? So then he gives this theory that the life origination is from the pre-existing life, and we call it as this theory of biogenesis. So then Louis Pasteur gave rise to this theory of biogenesis, like, and which is like very famous theory. Like then he become popular, and many scientists believe that it's right because he proved it through this experiment also. So the next question is two theories strongly supported by Arrhenius for life on Earth is Arrhenius theory. Option A is steady state theory. Option B is theory of panspermia. Option C is theory of spontaneous generation. And option D is theory of cosmozoic. So, which is the theory which is strongly supported by this Arrhenius scientist for life of on Earth is? Anyone wants to answer for this question?
Ma'am, option B, theory of panspermia.
Okay. Option B. Anyone else?
Ma'am, option C.
Option C. Okay.
Ma'am, option C.
Okay. Option C.
Option B, ma'am.
Option D.
B.
Okay. B. Okay, two of you are saying option B and one is like option C. So let's see. So option B is the correct answer. That is theory of panspermia. And this, what is this panspermia theory? I already discussed in the previous slide that the panspermia theory, that this theory believe that the life origination is from somewhere from the space, and from the space some spores will come to the earth, to the primitive earth, and how they come to the earth with the help of this meteoroids or comets, and then it will give rise to the this life. So this Arrhenius scientist, he strongly supported this theory of panspermia, right? So simple question. So the next question is the mixture of gases with exact ratios used by the Miller and Urey experiment to conduct the experiment in support of chemical theory. So, what is the mixture of gases and what is their exact ratio used? So, these are the options. Option A is hydrogen, ammonia, and methane in the ratio of 2 is to 2 is to 1. Option B is methane, ammonia, and hydrogen in the ratio of 2 is to 1 is to 2. And option C is methane, hydrogen, and ammonia in the ratio of 2 is to 2 is to 1. And option D is methane, ammonia, and hydrogen in the ratio of 2 is to 2 is to 1. So whenever you do this like quiz questions, then you can also select by the elimination method and try to go through the each option like carefully and see whether like what can be the answer for this question. But here, though, we can see that in all the options, this mixture of guesses is the same. So little bit difficult for you guys to select the one, because here you have to see like what is the exact ratio for this guesses.
Ma'am, is it D?
Ma'am, option D.
Okay, two of you are saying option D.
No, ma'am, B.
Okay, B.
Ma'am, option B.
Okay, option D.
Ma'am, option
No
B.
मैम डी नहीं मैम बी.
Okay, B.
Ma'am, option B. Methane, ammonia, and
B.
hydrogen in 212.
Okay. 1 minute. हाँ अभी म्यूट है. वो पेन स्टेप. हाँ मेरा वीडियो ऑन था पता है. ये यहीं पे 4 डिग्री. हाँ. मीथेन अमोनिया एंड हाइड्रोजन 2:1 होना चाहिए ना. उसमें गलत है आंसर. हाँ 3 ml बोला उसने. 1 मिनट रुक देखते हैं. हाँ सेल कल्चर ने 3 ml. हाँ सेल कल्चर में 3 ml एक एपेंड ऑफ में देना है. चल ठीक है. 3 ml you can take. Okay, so let's see the answer for this question. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's see. So you are saying option B. Uh, sorry. Yeah, option this B is the right answer for this question. So let's not this one. Option B. You people are right that the B is the right answer. That is ammonia, methane, and hydrogen. It will be in the form of 2:1 is to 2. Right. So this is the Miller-Urey experiment. So he very beautifully through this experiment he proved that the life is originated from the chemical, that is through the inorganic chemical. So he set up this experiment like the primitive earth condition. He took some of the gases like which is he created like he tried to create a reducing environment because earlier the earth atmosphere was reducing in nature. So he took the methane, ammonia, and hydrogen in the mixture of 2 is to 1 is to 2, and also this water vapor, and also he give this electric discharge like very, because we know that earlier there is a very high energy, right, through the volcanic eruption, electric lightning also. So he give this spark discharge, and here it condenser is there. So this is the very like hot environment. Here condensation will be there, and it will condense and it will form this water droplets. And then when he take it out like through this he opened this vial, and then he see like what are those mixture, and he found that some of the simple amino acid is there, that glycine and valine is there. So then he proved that this life is originated from the non-living organism, like or inorganic molecules. Basically, we can say that inorganic molecules. So very beautifully, like he set up this experiment in the early stage and try to create the primitive earth conditions, and he proved that. So this is the experiment. So the next question is, the gas responsible for life in the current Earth atmosphere, but it was not allowing the condensation reaction in primitive Earth is, like, which is the gas responsible for life in a current Earth atmosphere, that is like now current, but it was not allowing the condensation reaction in primitive Earth is. Option A is oxygen, option B is carbon dioxide, option C is nitrogen, and option D is ozone. So, what will be the answer for this question? Anyone? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, with, like the gas responsible for life in current Earth atmosphere. Anyone?
It's nitrogen, ma'am.
Nitrogen. Okay. Anyone else? Like, try to think like which gas is responsible for life in current Earth atmosphere, but it was not allowing the condensation reaction in primitive Earth. Like the basic difference between the primitive Earth and now. You can think like then it would be easy for you guys to select the option like which one is the right.
Ma'am, oxygen.
Okay. Anyone else?
Oxygen.
Okay.
D.
B. Okay. So some of you are saying A, some of you are saying B, C. So let's see. So oxygen is the right answer for this question. So see guys, because oxygen is the gas like which is responsible for life in current Earth atmosphere, right? because we know that earlier the atmosphere is like reducing, right? And now it is oxidizing. That's why so there will be no new life and no new life is coming. Like now we can't make life from the non-living organism, that is from the inorganic molecules. Even if we try to make a life from inorganic molecules, we can't, because now the atmosphere is oxidizing, but in the primitive earth atmosphere it was reducing. But this oxygen gas is very
Ma'am,
responsible.
why not carbon dioxide?
What?
Why not carbon dioxide?
Carbon dioxide. See, because here in the next,
Nowadays, it's increasing, na ma'am.
what?
As per science result, nowadays it is increasing, na ma'am.
Huh,
The case study nowadays they did.
nowadays it's increasing, right? But
Yes, ma'am.
CO2,
It traps the greenhouse effect.
but here also it's written, but it was not allow the condensation reaction in primitive earth, because see, our earlier earth condition was reducing in nature, so there will be no oxygen is there, right? In the early condition, so that's why we see that Miller also showed in the experiment hydrogen, methane and ammonia, like all are the like reducing, he tried to create the reducing environment, right? But here this the main gas which is responsible for current life, we can't breathe through carbon dioxide, like main source is the oxygen, like which is the basic difference between the primitive earth and right now, because earlier the atmosphere is reducing in nature and now it's oxidizing. So main thing is this, because of this oxygen, right? So this one is the gas like which is responsible for life in current earth atmosphere, and it this oxygen was not allowing the condensation reaction in primitive earth. So that's why, because this oxygen was absent or it is present only in trace amounts, because CO2 to later it will form, because it's a complex molecule, right? Because initially this methane, ammonia, hydrogen is there, then oxygen will come, and later it give rise to this carbon dioxide or other molecules of the oxygen like O2, first the simpler one like O2 and then CO2 and all it will form. But the most important gas which is responsible, and also the very basic difference, which we can distinguish from the primitive and now, is because of the presence of this oxygen. And this here in the second point also, this early earth had as a reducing environment, because of the reducing environment which allow the condensation reaction, and that form the complex organic molecule from the simpler ones, right? Because of this condensation reaction, then this will form this CO2 and all other molecules will form, because it come later. Before that this oxygen come, this two molecule of oxygen combined, this give rise to the oxygen. So that's why this oxygen will take it as a consideration, right? Are you getting? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And oxygen is very highly reactive and it prevents the formation of organic molecules by breaking them down through the oxidation, and life begin only after this organic molecule form and leads to the first primitive cells. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So the next question is the correct assumption for the spontaneous formation of monomeric organic compound according to the chemical theory of life is. Here the option A is complex molecule interact with each other to form the simple monomeric organic compounds. Option B is the reactions occur in oxidizing environment inside the ocean. Option C is the organic compound and simple inorganic compounds were present in the atmosphere. Option D is as the temperature of earth is lowered, the inorganic molecule were condensed in the form of rain. So You have to tell the correct assumption for the spontaneous formation of monomeric organic compound according to the chemical theory of life. In chemical theory means like Miller-Urey experiment. So anyone read carefully, like each options, read very carefully and try to eliminate like which one is wrong, and then see like what is the right answer for this question.
Ma'am, maybe option C.
Okay, anyone else?
Option B.
Okay, read carefully each and every word. Anyone else?
Option D.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, so option D is the right answer for this question. So let's see, like first we'll see the first option A. Why not option A? Complex molecule interact with each other to form simple monomeric organic compounds. So what this spontaneous formation of monomeric spontaneous, like what is the spontaneous theory that the life originate from the simple inorganic compounds, right? So in the option A, what they are saying that the complex molecule interact with each other to form simple. No, simple monomeric molecules will combine and then only they'll form the complex molecule, right? So option A is not the right answer. Then next option B, the reactions occur in oxidizing environment inside the ocean. No, because earlier how's the environment? Reducing in nature, right? But here they are saying oxidizing environment. The reaction occur in reducing environment inside the ocean. Then this is the theory, right? Chemical theory that the earlier the atmosphere is reducing in nature, that's why this initially simple inorganic molecule will come into the picture, and then from there the organic compound formation will be there, right? So in the option B, this oxidizing is the trouble, right? Because the reaction occur in the reducing environment. Then this is so this is also not the right answer. Then comes to the option C. The organic compound and simple inorganic compound were present in the atmosphere. In the atmosphere, initially though it was only simple inorganic compound, right? This organic compound formed later after the inorganic compound, right? So and the next option is as the temperature of earth is lowered, because we know that earlier the earth is very hot in nature, right? There will be high temperature because of the volcanic eruptions, because of the high electricity, there will be like electricity discharge and all, the lightning is there, right? So when the temperature goes down, the temperature of earth is lower, what will happen? There will be the condensation reaction starts. So this condensation reaction starts and the inorganic molecule were condensed. those inorganic molecules which is present in the atmosphere, they'll come into the picture and they'll start condensing, and after the condensation reaction, it form it comes in the form of rain, and then it will form give rise to the ocean, and then other inorganic molecules, and from the other inorganic molecules it form the complex organic compounds, right? So in this way it happens, right? So option D is the right answer for this question. Any doubt? So read carefully each sentence, like what, like answer is hidden in the question only. Just you have to read the statements very carefully, each and every word, and then try to eliminate, and then you can find easily like what is the right answer for this question, right? So the next question is, here also this is, I already told you guys like how it happens, right? This according to the chemical theory of life, which is given by this Operand and Haldane theory, that earlier this atmosphere is reducing in nature, and which is also experimentally supported by the whom, this Miller-Urey experiment. So the earth cooled down, the water vapor condenses into the rain, and formed the primitive ocean, and then in the ocean this chemical reaction started, and when the chemical reaction started, it gave rise to the formation of the simple organic molecules, monomers such as amino acids and sugars, and from the simple it will give rise to the complex molecules. So the next question is, according to chemical theory, the energy for the formation of inorganic molecules were provided by option A is ocean, option B is lightning, option C is plants, option D is electricity.
Option B, ocean.
Okay, option B. Anyone else? Anyone else?
Lightning. Option B.
Okay, so two of you are saying option B. Okay, let's see.
Lightning, ma'am.
Huh. You people are right. Option B is the right answer, because initially there will be no electricity, yeah, right? In the earlier earth condition there was no electricity at all, so only energy, like this energy source is the this lightning, right? So you will write the simple question. So the next is the era which has no available fossil forms. Option A is Cenozoic, option B is Mesozoic, option C is Paleozoic, and option D is Archeozoic. So, which era has no available fossil forms? Uh, I think someone my mic is on. So, the era which has no available fossil forms. Uh, Tasri Sangma. Can you please turn off your? Can you mute yourself? Huh? Okay. Thank you. So,
Ma'am, option D.
okay, option D, and someone is saying option C. Okay. Oh, Aishwarya, you were there in my last course also, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, yeah, I remember. So the era which has no available fossil form is. So some of you are saying option C and option B, right?
Option C.
Okay. See, okay. The right answer for this is Archezoic. Like, what is the fossil remnants of organism, right? Fossil. We call it as the fossil. So, in the options, there are four era: Cenozoic, Mesozoic, Paleozoic, and Archezoic. Cenozoic era is the present era also, 66 million year ago to present. Like organism are also present there, and here the fossil of mammals, birds, flowering plants are abundant. We have a fossil of mammals, birds, flowering plants, right? So this is not the right answer. Next is Mesozoic. Mesozoic era, like fossil of dinosaur. Like in the news also, sometime it's come that there is a fossil of dinosaur found by a group of scientists, and also reptiles, birds. So we have fossils of dinosaur, reptiles, birds. This is also common, right? And the next is Paleozoic, that is fossils of fishes, amphibians, and early land plants and all. So this is also, but Archezoic, that Archaebacteria is there, right? So this Archezoic, also called the Archean, which is around 4 billion to 2.5 million year ago, and it is the like one of the earliest geological time periods, right? So there is no true fossil. Like for no true fossil means sometimes some scientists said that there will be some bacteria, like not like traces. Like there are different kind of fossils. Like some are the like true fossils and some are like only that picture is there, right? So I exactly don't remember the name, like kind of that fossil, but here there is a no true fossils because life was just beginning in the form of prokaryotic microorganism, archaea, that is bacteria, like ancient bacteria. So in this archezoic there is only bacteria is there, that prokaryotic microorganism will be there, bacteria and cyanobacteria. uh, these come under this archezoic era, and these, because we know that cyanobacteria is the first bacteria which believed to become first during the primitive earth, because it is a photosynthetic bacteria, cyanobacteria. And these early life form didn't have any hard parts, because we know that this microorganism have not any hard parts like shells or bones. So which, and we know that the mostly fossilization in the during the fossilization process, this shell or bones make a very significant contribute during this fossilization, and we can use as a fossil, right? But there will be no shells, no bones, and there, so there is a no real or no pure fossil is there. So it's extremely rare, or no fossil is there. So the right answer for this is the Archezoic era, right? Because in the Cenozoic we have fossils, Mesozoic also, Paleozoic also, Archaea, that is ancient, derived from the ancient, that Archaebacteria, which is a kind of ancient bacteria. And because no hard parts is there, so which make it hard to form any kind of fossils. So that's why this era have no available fossil form. So Archeozoic is the right answer for this question. So the next question is, what is the modified pentadactyl forelimbs in dolphin called as, and is based on which category of evolution? Option A is flippers and convergent evolution. Option B is flippers and divergent evolution. Option C is pectoral fins and convergent evolution. And option D is pectoral fins and divergent evolution. So modified pentadactyl forelimbs in dolphins. So anyone?
Ma'am, option A, flippers and convergent evolution.
Okay. Anyone
Option
else?
B, ma'am.
Hmm? Option?
B, ma'am.
Okay. Option B.
Option B.
Okay. Option B. Anyone else? Okay, let's see like what is the right answer for this question. So option A is the right answer. That is flippers and convergent evolution. So because they have a same function like dolphins, what is a modified pentadactyl for limbs is there and is based on which category. So there are two kinds of evolution, that is divergent, like which have a very common ancestor, because pentadactyl forelimbs, right, they help in the flippers, right, but like um, flippers, that means they have a same function, help in the movements, and divergent evolution is there, they have a very common ancestor, um, but they do the different functions, right, but convergent evolution have a, they don't have a common ancestor, they have a different ancestor is there, but they perform the same kind of function, and we called it as convergent evolution, right. So this dolphin pentadactyl columns, this is also kind of mammals only. mm, um, Mammals, that means they have a common ancestor, so it may be, I think it will be divergent evolution, option B, because pentadactyl forelimbs, that means they have a common ancestor, right? And but their function is different because dolphins forelimbs help in the movement in the water, but pentadactyl forelimbs we can like walk. So I think the answer for this is the flippers and divergent evolution. But I'll let you know like in the next class. I'll let you know guys like what is the right answer for this. I think it's it will be B. But in the answer key they mentioned like option A. I'll let you know. Okay. But this you understand, right? What is divergent convergent evolution? Divergent means they have a common ancestor, but they perform different function. And convergent, they don't have a like common ancestor, but they converge into same point because of their same function, right? So the next question is, from the following examples, which characteristic do not support the theory of inheritance of acquired characters? So, which characteristic do not support the inheritance of acquired characteristics? Option A is loss of vision in case of cave animals. Option B is development of webbed feet in ducks. Option C is development of leg in lizards. And option D is well developed pinna muscles in rabbit, like which don't support inheritance of acquired characteristics. Anyone? Okay, who give this theory? Theory of inheritance of acquired characters. You people know? Anyone?
Option A.
Option A. Okay. You have to tell which do not support this theory. Anyone else? Okay, let's see. So the right answer for
Option
this is,
B.
yeah, option.
B.
Okay. So the right answer for this question is option C. A theory of acquired characteristic which is given by the Lamarck, Jean-Baptiste Lamarckism, and what he suggested the traits acquired by an organism during its lifetime could be passed on to its offspring. So he suggested the, that there is an organism, and during the lifetime it acquired some characteristic. And he gave an example of this giraffe also, that he used to try to eat the leaves. So because he tried to reach those plants leaves, so with time there will be like very high neck is there. So and then it give rise to this giraffe have a like very long neck, right? And then after some time this acquired characteristic will come into the offspring, and offspring later it comes with a long neck only, right? So his Lamarck suggested the theories and he called it as theory of inheritance of acquired characters, right? So the first example in the statement one, it's there is loss of vision in case of cave animals. We know that there is a no vision in cave animals, and it support also. And here in the question asked that which do not support, because cave animals there is like full of darkness is there. If full of darkness is there, even if they have eyes, it's of no use, right? So but he said like because they don't need eyes, so with the time in those cave animals there is a loss of vision. And it support also because it the offspring acquired the characteristic from their parents, right? Because due to the disuse of eyes in dark caves, in the dark caves there will be no vision needed, right? So this supports, so option A is not the right answer. Next is development of webbed feet in ducks. So it also supports because ducks have a webbed feet so that it can move or it can goes into the water, right? So they have a webbed feet, like attached feet is there, so they can easily move into the water. So this is also a right because it also supports because they need for swimming efficiently or to move into the water efficiently. So that's why ducks have this web fit. And next is development of legs in lizards. So lizards, so but they don't need legs, right? Because we know that lizards comes under the reptilia, and so this legs is this is the right statement because it doesn't support the Lamarck theory, because development of leg is not this acquired characters because it is a genetic character. Wait a minute. And these genetic characters come under the natural selection because we know that reptilia and birds they come arise from the earlier mammalian, and mammalian have a pair of legs, so it comes under the genetic traits through the natural selection. It comes like, even if we see that if it come under the lamarckism, then there will be no legs will be there, right? Because lizard don't use. So it come under the genetic traits that come under the natural selection, and this lizards have this legs, right? And next is well developed pinna muscles and rabbit. So this is also to support the rabbits because rabbits have a very well developed pinna. Whenever there is a predators comes, like this rabbit can hear from the very distance and very earlier. So to better adapt in the environment and to escape from the predators, this rabbit have a very well developed pinna muscles, or that's why even their offspring have a very well developed pinna muscles. So this statement is also supporting the lamarckism theory. So all of the theory that loss of vision in case of cave animals, and the second one is this development of web feet in ducks, and third one is well developed pinna muscles in rabbit. All these three statements support the lamarckism theory, right? Which characteristics these all the three characteristics support the theory of inheritance of acquired characteristic. But the option C, which says the development of leg in lizards, this statement is not supporting the theory of inheritance of acquired characteristics. Instead, it is a genetic trait that evolved over the million of years through the natural selection. Right? So then here through this beautiful diagram we can see that what lamarckism suggests that because with the time this grasses come less and it tries to eat the leaves of the plants, so that they have to need this long neck, so then later their offspring have also this long neck. So this is the theory of lamarckism. So the next question is, the effect of radiation and chemical on germ cell is used in support of which theory? Theory of natural selection. Next is the Weismann theory of continuity of germplasm. And option C is Hugo de Verres theory. And option D is theory of inheritance of acquired characters. So what will be the answer for this question? Anyone?
Ma'am, option B, Weissman theory of quantum.
Option B. Ma'am, option B.
Okay. So one of you are saying option B, one is option D.
Option B, ma'am.
Option B.
Okay.
Option D.
Okay. So many of you are saying option D, and some of you are saying option B. Anyone else? Okay, let's see the right answer. D is the right answer. That theory of inheritance of acquired characteristics. Because according like this theory of natural selection, that naturally it will select the organism and it will adapt into the environment, right? Weismann theory of continuity of germ plasm, that there's a germ plasm and it will only the germ cells which have the information they'll goes into the offsprings. And Hukodi whereas gives the mutation theory, but here in the statement they are saying effect of radiation and chemical on germ cells. If there is any effect of radiation and chemicals on germ cells, then only these characteristic will goes into the next generation. So this is in support of theory of inheritance of acquired characters. Only those character these organisms will acquire which have an effect on germ cells. So this is the support in which theory of inheritance of acquired characters, right? So option D is the right answer. So next question is, who discovered this theory of inheritance of acquired characteristics? Very simple question. Option A is Charles Darwin. Option B is Hugo de Veris. Option C is Weismann. Option D is Lamarck.
Ma'am, option C, August Weismann.
Lamarck, ma'am. Option D.
Option D.
Option D.
Okay. Anyone else?
Option D.
Anyone else?
Option D.
So this theory of inheritance of acquired characteristic, this is discovered by the Jean-Baptiste dilemma. So this is the Jean-Baptiste dilemma, and here it's mentioned Chevalier dilemma. These are the two different scientists, right? That's why you people confused, and you see the Lamarck, and mostly you people answer the Lamarck. Auguste Weismann is the scientist who supported the Lamarck. That's why we can consider this option C is the right answer, because first, this theory is given by the Lamarck, but the Lamarck full name is the Jean-Baptiste de Lamarck, and later Weismann also supported the Lamarck. And what statement he gives in the earlier question, we see that he said like which has a like which has an influence on the germs here. Like if there is a fact of those characteristic on the germ cells, then only it will give that information will pass on to the offsprings. So these also consider into the theory of inheritance of acquired characteristic, right? And this statement is given by the this August Weismann, right? So that's why option C is the right answer for this question. That August Weismann discovered the theory of inheritance of acquired characteristic. If there is a Jean Baptiste de Lamarck, then we can go for that option. But in out of four options, there is a no option as such Jean Baptiste de Lamarck, and the second option August Weismann is there. So we'll consider these option is the right for the question. Okay. So option C is the right answer for this question. So that's why you have to see like full name of the scientist. So August Weismann, and next is, what is the connecting link between cartilaginous and bonifacius? Option A is coalescence, B is chimera, C is phenodon, and D is neopalina. So what is the connecting link between cartilaginous and the bonifacius?
Option A. Option A.
A. Okay.
B.
Okay, B.
Ma'am, option B, Chimera.
Okay. So do if you are saying option B, anyone else?
Option B, ma'am.
Okay. So many of you are saying option B. So let's see. So option B is the right answer. That is Chimera, and this is the fish. Chimera looks like this. So it is the connecting link between cartilaginous and also bonifacius. So they have a bones also, and their skeleton is made up of cartilage also and bones also. So that's why this chimera is the connecting link between cartilaginous and bonifacius. It's like it's like self-explanatory. You have to remember the name, that is chimera, which is the connecting link between cartilages and bonifacius, right? So the next question is, which among the following metal is used to determine the age of fossils? So option A is potassium, B is iron, C is sodium, and D is cobalt. So, which metal is used to determine the age of fossils?
Potassium. Option A.
Okay. Anyone else?
Ma'am, option A, potassium.
Okay.
And potassium.
Okay.
Option
So,
A.
many of you are saying option A. Anyone else?
Potassium, ma'am.
Okay. So, all of you are saying option A. Let's see. So, potassium is the right answer. So, potassium in combination with argon, and we called it as potassium argon dating. So, this potassium argon dating is very widely used method, like which determine the age of fossils and rocks. Especially, it is used for the fossils which is older than like 1 lakh years, right? Approx 1 lakh years. We can use this method, potassium argon dating. Here, the isotope which is used for the which is used to determine the age of fossil is the potassium 40, because K40 is a radioactive isotope of this potassium, and that decays with time into the argon over time. This potassium 40 decays into the argon 40 over time. By measuring the ratio of this potassium 40 to argon 40, scientists can estimate the age of these rocks, because we know that this rocks is made up of this potassium, right? So when we use the radioactive isotope of potassium, that is potassium 40, and we'll calculate the ratio of the potassium 40 and argon 40, because we know that with time this radioactive isotope will convert into the argon 40, right? And when we see the ratio, we can determine the date, and we can determine the life span of that fossil, right? So this is the metal which is used to determine the age of fossil. So you people were right that potassium is the right answer for this question. So let's move to the next question. What led Charles Darwin to propose the theory of natural selection in his book Origin of Species? Option A is Traveller, D. Lamarck views and observation. Okay. And the option B is Hugo de Very's report on workers. Option C is August Weismann view and population survey. Option D is Wallace view and Malthus observation of workers. So this origin of species. What led Charles Darwin to propose the theory of natural selection in his book Origin of Species? Because this Charles Darwin wrote this book Origin of Species, so how he wrote this book, like how he proposed this theory of natural selection. So anyone? Anyone who wants to answer for this question?
Ma'am, maybe option B, but I'm not sure.
Okay. Anyone else?
Option C, ma'am.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, let's see the right answer. So option D is the right answer for this question. So, this Charles Darwin, he wrote this book, How the Species Originate. and for that he went to one voyage also, and then he saw some Darwin finches, and then he wrote this book, Origin of Species, right? So he influenced by the Alfred Wallace, because this Alfred Wallace independently developed a theory of evolution which is very similar to Darwin, and this Darwin published this Wallace theory also on the origin of species in 1859. Also, he studied about this Malthus observation, and this Thomas Malthus is a different scientist. He wrote in his essay an essay on the principle of population. In population genetics, he contributed very well, this Thomas Malthus, and he wrote this essay, an essay on the principle of population, that how human populations grow faster than resources, and because that leads to the, if there is a limited resources, then that may leads to the struggle and competition, right? Then there is a point comes like who will win. So in that case, which organism is this, there the survival of the fittest will come into the point, and whoever organism is the fittest one, it will survive and the another one will eliminate. So what this Darwin did is he combined both theories. Well, is that how the who developed this theory of evolution, that how this evolution is there, and also the survival of fittest wala concept by the Thomas Malthus. So he applied those two ideas into his book, that on the origin of species, by combining this both the theories, and he wrote this book, Origin of Species. So and he realizes that, and he wrote that organism which have a very favorable traits, that is which have a survival and reproducible traits, that will come into the natural selection process, and who have a less favorable traits, they'll just die off or eliminate from the nature, right? So these are the two scientists, on the basis Wallace views and Malthus observation. Based on their observation, he wrote this book, Origin of Species. So the next question is, what is the principal factor for natural selection as recognized by the Darwin and Wallace? Option A is variation, option B is environment, option C is inheritance, and option D is light. So what is the principal factor for natural selection? Anyone? Anyone?
Ma'am, option A, variation.
Okay. Okay.
Option A, variation.
Option A.
Okay. So many of you are saying option A. So let's see. Uh, okay. So option B is the right factor, because see, if there will be change in the environment, that environment is the main factor, because if there is a change in the environment, then organism have to adapt according to the environment, right? Otherwise they have to die off. So that's why the principal factor for this natural selection is the environment. So that will select which organism will survive and which organism will die with the time. So the main factor is the environment, right? So the next question, last question, is which of the following is false regarding the appearance of mutation in offspring in Hugo de Paris experiment on Oinothera lamarckiana? So option A is constant in plants are stable. Option B is retrogressive with low traits. Option C is progressive with newer traits. And option D is degressive with weak and low survival. Anyone? Anyone? Who could various experiment on Oinothera? Anyone wants to answer for this question? Okay, so the false statement is the first one, that is constant and plants are stable. So when there is appearance of mutation, because Hugodi varies, in his experiment he used this evening primrose plant and we called it as Oinothera lamarckiana, and he proposed this theory, that is the mutation theory. And what he suggests that evolution occur through sudden inheritable mutations. He suggests that in an organism, because of some reason, mutations will happen, and this mutation will come because of the chemical mutations, because of like light UV rays, like mutagens. This mutation will come, and there will be sudden changes rather than the gradual changes, right? And he observed that this mutation leads to the new traits. If it leads to the new traits, then it will give rise to the progressive. We called it as the progressive. That that is with the newer traits. Progressive means progress in progression, and they are giving rise to the newer traits, like more complex one. And low stress, that is retrogressive, like retrogressive with low straits or weak offspring. Weak offspring means degressive or weak or lower survival. So he experimented on this Oinothera lamarckiana and suggests that the retrogressive, progressive, and degressive. Because of the mutation, some traits will come all of a sudden. These may be the retrogressive, that is low traits, progressive, that in progression with newer traits, and degressive, like with weak and low survival, right? If there is a loss of the pre-existing traits, we call the term as a retrogressive, that in reverse, these goes into the reverse direction. Like these organisms have these traits and now it's going to the simpler one, like now it's losing those traits, so we call it as retrogressive. If it give rise to the newer traits, we called it as progressive, because these mutation introduce some new beneficial traits, so we called it as a progressive. Degressive, like some mutation also cause weaker offspring with low survival chances. We call it as a degressive with weak and low survival. Right? So any doubt? And because in this question they ask a false statement, so this option A is the remaining one. So this one is the wrong statement about the Hugodi Veris experiment. That is constant in plants are stable. Okay. Any doubt? Any doubt? Okay, then thank you.
No, ma'am.
Okay, then
No, ma'am.
bye bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Suhani, you have any doubt?
Ma'am, I wanted to ask one thing.
Okay, okay.
Ma'am, where can we find the notes of week one and week two sessions?
Week 1 and week 2 session, like you can go to your you can enroll into your course, and there you can find it out after signing in into the, or any other of your classmate can suggest, because I don't have any access to those. Like I have access to those videos, but for you people maybe it will be different. Anyone who wants to clarify her how she can find?
Ma'am, I asked the question in chat box.
What I
Ask the doubt.
Okay, you have any doubt?
in chat box.
Okay, 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 okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Cobalt, ma'am, how the fossil plant exists? Don't they decompose? Oh yeah, they decompose. That's what I was saying. Ki some have no true fossils. So what they happen is they have this dendrophiles. Dendrogram is there, like how we can calculate the age of the woods. And also sometime what happen is if there is a leaf, like what kind of pattern is there, so these leaf will embed it into something very hard, and it will give the like some traces, like some this trace kind of thing. Through there we can see the pattern, and we can find out whether there is a dicot or monocotyledons. So they have a different kind of fossils is there for plants. And also that wood life is there. So that's what I was saying, because microorganisms are very small in size, so even they can't give their trace pattern also. So in that way we can find out the plant fossils. And other methods are also there. Are you getting?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, but how we will get the idea like this is a certain place like a plant fossil exists here by traces.
Yeah, by traces. So the research group have to find it out and see like is there. So then they have to do some experiments, and then only they can claim. And if the like then they have to present their paper, and if the group of a scientists will say like will admit their like yeah whatever he's suggesting or whatever he is finding it's true, then only we can proceed that one. So for that they have to prove that. So they
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
welcome. Other methods are also there. So like different methods are there for plants, that I'll tell you in the next class. Also one slide I'll keep for that one, so that it would be easier for
Sure,
you.
ma'am.
Yeah. So Suhani, if any one of you have to access to notes recorded lecture, then kindly update me. So anyone of you, Kavi, you know, like, or anyone else, how to access to the notes and recorded lecture? Can you please guide her, like, to Suhani? Anyone of you
Ma'am,
have?
they are in the
Yeah.
course only.
Okay, Suhani, for that you have to log in into your course, and in the course, like you can find it out. There are the options. Then you can find it out like there is a notes option or is lectures option. Then you can go through and you can access to those notes after login into that course, right?
Yes, ma'am, I found it. All the notes are available there for 3 weeks.
Okay, Suhani, you check once again and then see.
Okay.
Okay, guys, bye.
Bye, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, bye.